Hello and welcome to Create with Briley. Let's work on my website, Briley Online, today. We are building that with Astro build, and we're going to continue working on the RSS feed feature. Last time we left off, we had the RSS feed working. Let's run the server real quick. And what remains, I think, is just to figure out where to display the RSS link. What's conventional and what looks good with the site design. So we'll hop over here. So when the site loads, we have some featured content on the front page and several networks where we can connect, and an RSS feed that's working. The RSS link feels a little bit out of place here. I think it should go down below near the license. I'm not sure where it's conventional on a site to put an RSS feed. Let's see if we can just chat here with GPT. It's a code related question, so there's a chance Copilot will answer that. It's conventional to place a link to the site's RSS feed in the footer or header in the website. This ensures that the link is easily accessible from any page. Yeah, in this case, the RSS feed's a little bit out of place. So I can give it a little bit more context to see if we just want to harmonize it with the social components, which is under social Astro. You know, I don't have a strong opinion here. RSS feed, it's connecting to my website, so I suppose that makes sense. Stay updated, RSS feed, and then the license. Okay, that's feeling a little bit better. Let's check it out. I think if I click this button, it'll insert that cursor. I want to apply that in the editor, in the footer. Let's apply that div. I'll accept those changes, save the file, and the live page should reload. There we go. Okay, now it's like kind of, it's looking better. So let's ask it to kind of play a role. This looks better. Let's think about it from a design perspective. Currently, the Stay Updated section spans the entire page width with a solid background color and takes up 2 rows. However, it contains only 2 elements, so it doesn't perhaps need to be so prominent. In effect, a call to action button might be sufficient, centered near the bottom of the footer. What would a professional UX designer suggest? Sometimes there's some tacit knowledge in these models that exceeds my experience. A professional UX designer might suggest making the RSS feed link less prominent by integrating it into the existing footer layout while creating a separate section. This can be achieved by placing the RSS feed link alongside the social links or as a standalone call to action button centered at the bottom of the footer. Here's an updated version of the footer Astro with the RSS feed link as centered CTA button. So let's go ahead and apply that in the editor, the active editor. We'll accept it, save it, RSS feed. Okay, well, it still has the prominent background, but that's okay. It's cool, and RSS is a first-class citizen, so let's go ahead and emphasize it. For the federated web. All right, so we'll go ahead and commit this. What did I add here? Iconify. We added the icons for IC, which is the Google Material Design icons. IC. They kind of crouched or squatted that namespace. IC, but okay, there's a lot of those, like 10,000, and it's MIT licensed, so I can't complain really. And this is adding essentially the RSS feed link. And let's just go ahead and so let's go ahead and center the social media buttons as well. They're leaning over a little bit. Most everything, there's some left alignment there. Strange. Didn't need to. Oh, because give it the wrong file, I guess. Now we're looking a little bit more consistent and just they're equidistant. So that's kind of cool. All right, that's a good improvement. Ah, forgot to enter the commit message. So let's open his pull request. Closes number 9. over here to the pull requests, and it's good to go. It links it to the issue, and we'll go ahead and merge that. I think we're done with the discoverability task, so that will close the issue as well. So we can take another issue. I've skipped over these: reading time and last modified time. Share tags between blog articles and projects. This is kind of a cool idea, where when you click a tag in an article or the projects page, you'll go to a listing of all of the content from both those collections. Before I do that, I think it's worth setting up a blog collection. This is more conventional. I have an issue for that, so setting up a content collection. And essentially we'll just do like kind of blog, and we'll do .md format. So let's go ahead and do this. Now, I've been checking out Cursor and using it a little bit at work, and it has a nice feature where you can feed it documentation, so it's always up to date with the projects you're working on. I might start using Cursor on the stream, but I'm hesitating a little bit. GitHub Copilot's very capable, and it's also free for open source contributors. GitHub Copilot has in the works an agent mode similar to Cursor, and I suspect they also might allow you to feed it project documentation for the libraries and frameworks that you're using in your development. Let's just see how much it knows about content collections. So now that we've merged, let me double check here, the discoverability pull request. We will switch back to main. And since I don't really have any blog content, this might be just like a small change, but let's take a look. Create a branch. So we have, posts, which consists of markdown documents with front matter and a particular layout. And essentially the routing is done by the file name. Which it works. But conventionally you'll have like a page slug, and a content collection can still allow us to define these as markdown, but have Zod validation, IntelliSense, and type checking in the editor. That's cool. tsconfig JSON. So we don't really have extends. Okay, Astro config's strict, so we are looking good there. Strictest. I'll just go with the default, so we scaffolded the project and it set it to that. I don't know. All right, so we'll leave that alone. Defining collections. We have a loader and a scheme. I'm going to try just using Copilot here. We'll probably use a file fetcher and parser. Let's see how far we can get with Copilot edits. Give it an example post and we'll go to our blog page. I suspect that's going to be close, but then it will need a little bit of details from the Astro config, correct? Well, I wanted to maximize. Strange. I just realized the screen capture is not working. Let me turn that off and on again. Here we go. Okay, sorry for that. Audio seems to have been working, and the screen capture is freezing sometimes. Not sure why. Alright, so where do we define our content collections? Content config dot. Do all of them go there? We need the blog post item as well. Okay. So the blog post item components. Do blog post list item and blog post. Oh, that is it. Alright, so we actually don't have. Yeah, we just have the list item. Okay. I'll give it an example in the tags. Let's see what it can derive from that, from the prior art. Define a new content collection for the blog posts. So we got a slug file going on there. Got some formatting issues. We'll fix those. That's pretty common. Like type definitions are missing or something like that. Interesting. So it's adding citations for the code portfolio. But we're not really, and it's so glitched. That's strange. Okay, I understand the sentiment. Citing their sources. But that's such a fragmentary citation. It's almost not useful. I mean, you can't, this code isn't useful. And I'm not necessarily using that exact schema. We'll have to take a look. Let's see. All right, we'll come back to this. Interesting. All right, so we have to start out with our content config. I think that's where the rubber hits the road. Blog post collection, define collection. So this is where we also have the citation schema. Title, slug, pub date, description, author, image. And this is almost factual. Blog posts have those. And in fact, if we were to cite something, we might cite schema.org. So that's looking good. So we're going to register these collections. Let me just go through all these. And I'm going to ask it to refactor the structure to follow schema.org. Then we have a slug page, which for the posts, it has some missing helpers. This is so, let me double check here. And in fact, this person's portfolio is perhaps built in this minimal starter kit. So it's like, where do you trace the origin to? Okay, I just wanted to check. I don't think this is a legit citation. I mean, I'm all for citing things, but I'm going to delete this particular one. It's an interesting feature that Copilot's adding here. Cancel. Why is my window tripping out? All right, so we've got some stuff going on here. We'll come back to that. Added this slug, so that's good. And we'll check the blog. I believe you get the slug from the data objects like the pub date, so it's sort of halfway there. But the pub date, let me double check the model, is there. Okay, this is something else. What's going on here? I see. So the front matter in the blog post. List item. What's going on here? Doesn't even have a pub date. Doesn't. That's what the heck. Let's see. Claude 3.7 Sonnet was just released, and Cursor already does have support for that. So it's interesting. All right, so we don't want to change it to projects. Let's double check. Now it went away. No. Okay, let me double check here. So we'll come back to the post, content configs, blog posts. So we might do a glob loader, but then we want the schema, right? Yeah, so anyway, so we didn't load we don't have a loader and we need a schema. And that might be why we're getting an error, because the loader's missing. And glob. That way we can load all the blog posts. And where is it conventional to put those? We have them currently in pages posts, but should I move it to data posts or data blog? Seems like it. Pattern. Cool. Interesting. Okay, let's see if that fixed anything here. Blog posts. Let's just call it blog. And our content definition. Call it blog as well. Const blog equals a collection. And then you export the collections like so. And they're okay. Well, I see they're just using shorthand. If I do that, then I could rename this blog. They're using like destructuring shorthand. can remove this, that. Cool. Now, get collection of Astro content. Let me check how we did that. I'll come back to this slug, but where we used get collection elsewhere, if I copy that and search for it, project, So the secondary parameter here is a lambda function, basically. So an anonymous function that's going to filter. But the first argument to get collection is just the string ID of the collection. Which is essentially what we're doing here. Okay, so I've defined that in my projects collection. We just defined a loader and a schema. No collection name. In my blog, I've defined a loader, schema. We just have this in each of those comments. Just going to try something. If I switch the order of these, does the projects filter? Projects? Since they're alphabetical anyway, to go away? No. Okay, so that, when I ran it, it went away somehow. And the schema is a bit inconsistent, so let's go ahead and fix that. Sometimes these are a little bit weird stuff. You gotta jiggle handles in different ways that aren't really obvious, just unintuitive stuff. Okay. I'm gonna go to the content config and see if we can align the blog. We're going to want that schema.org markup for SEO and essentially discoverability. It's, richer semantics. So author, headline, date published, date modified, publisher name, logo. Interesting. That's a bit excessive. We'll accept it. But this I can insert dynamically. This gives the publisher probably won't change per blog post. Yeah, so I can construct some markup that way. Interesting. And I'm going to double check the pub date. Oh, they have a blog. Nice. Not very active. Schemas. We have like a creative work, a book, a movie, music scoring. Like an article is kind of what I'm after. Creative works. basically they're articles, right? Article body, article section, backstory, pagination, speakable word count. Interesting. About, abstract, access mode, accessibility. Whew. Author. There. Organization or person. Name and URL. Award, character, citation, comment. Contributor, copyright owner, copyright notice. A lot of stuff. Creator. Date created. So yeah, pub date should be date published. So please check other attributes against the schema.org convention. I don't know if it's a standard technically. It kind of is, but it's not like maybe like official. It's de facto, but we're going to use it. So date published, course date, and we'll need to also change where we got that twice in there. Except date published and date published. So we don't need two of those. Was there a date modified? Yes. I'm going to work out the modified thing later. I think we'll do that dynamically using git commit. But for now, I can include it in the schema. License. I've already got a license in my footer, but that's cool. Interesting. Okay. So I think we're good. We just got to go through a couple places where we were using that field. Get collection from Astro. Yeah, so now we're going to get the blog posts, map them. We are going to use the date published field and fix a couple of things here. And the slug is there, date published is there, and existing content. This is a problem where the large language models will, try to save resources and elide content. They're saying, yeah, we don't have to make any changes there. But when they're editing the code, that actually comes out in the diff, so that's not good. This particular one, but this is an okay one. So that's good that we can review these diffs side by side. And save. Okay, so let's see what we can do with this slug here. Get entry by slug doesn't exist from Astro content. It's deprecated. All right. What do we use? Use get entry instead. there we go. There we go. So something down here. Post data image URL. So yeah, if that is empty, we shouldn't try to access that. This is what's nice about type safety. It can give you all sorts of help. Okay, so this is some JavaScript ninja stuff. Post data image, and then it's short circuiting. So if this is true, it's going to short circuit and render that out. I don't like that coding style. I know it's really common in the React ecosystem. It's kind of like hip to do that. I can get over it. What is the alternative to this short circuit? Is there an alternative to using the short circuit style of programming to conditionally insert this div? Yeah, it's a little more verbose. I can see why the short circuit is more popular, because then you have to explicitly provide the alternative. And I guess we don't have a template language, so in like Django, you know, we've got like Django templating language. And there's handlebars and things like that that have this if-else type of situation where that's essentially what this is. All right, so I'll go with the short circuit logic. Quit, exit. All right. Okay, now we got green. Let's check our file system for red. Looking good. And we have only one post, but let's see if it renders. I can close schema.org for now. Go to our main page. The project is now running. Blog, my first blog post does not match the collection schema. Date published is an invalid date. Author expected type object received string. Okay, so yeah, basically because we're more strictly following schema.org, the author has some properties, but okay. Name property. Oh boy. And in the post, interestingly, that's not a date. So let's try building it again. And maybe it does give me a little bit of a hint about how to define front matter dates. Course date, pub date. How do we define front matter dates? Oh shoot, I think I skipped it. Oh, it's got so many of these. If I recall correctly, this is JavaScript. No, I don't know. It appears that in the future, 2025, which may be causing validation errors. No, that's not the problem. Thank you, though. That was surprising that the date didn't work. Let's check this other project. The Astro Accessible Starter, which also includes a blog. Source. Just projects. Okay. And I did this tutorial, build your first blog, and it didn't teach me how to do the content collection, which is kind of unfortunate. Now I have to figure it out. It's all right, it's learning, but I think we should take people down the happy path when teaching concepts and not kind of steer them through all the wrong ways of doing things. Just get the thing correct. Teach us the correct way, even though there might not be one correct way. Content, blog, exploring GPT, MDX. Single quoted string, okay. Or double quote, but anyway, I don't have a preference. I could have guessed that, I suppose, yeah. No. Let me check their schema, but just using ISO format, year, month, day. Single and double quotes I don't think matter in JavaScript. Which post number 1 is what I'm editing. Zero. So I guess that just means the front matter. It's like up here, there's an invalid date. So let's check out their content collection here. Coerce the date. Okay. There it is, same. So we have the date. Format matter does not match the schema. Title, description, date. Truncated. Huh. I don't think I need the date time. We could try that. It's pretty insane if that's the case. No. I'm pretty sure I've been reading this document. And YAML, I think this is YAML front matter. Dates written without quotes around them are interpreted as date objects, e.g. So yeah, I think we shouldn't have quotes around it. Is this YAML? Z-string date method validates strings in format year update. Right. So we have a valid year. And it wants month, date, date. What am I doing wrong here? So Markdown is a common way. JS like expressions. Importing, creating Markdown files, you can write dynamic HTML templates in your Astro. Maybe it's how I'm loading it. Right, I'm using the glob loader. We're just parsing that file. Let's try making an option just to see if I can parse fully. That works. Blog posts are rendering, so it's kind of rendering. Okay, This is unnecessary. Published on, we'll work on this. Authors, basically working. Description, image if it's available, which it is. And the post body, okay, and the post body is not rendering correctly. We might need, like in Django, we need to tell it explicitly to render Markdown. So there could be like a template filter or something like that. I'm not sure how that works with Astro. Right. And we should probably get a reference to that in the header. Let me double check what we did with the projects, for example. Yeah, I guess we can. So let me double check project slug. We're using JSON for that. Okay. The render function returns your markdown body content generated with a list of headings as well. Modified font matter. So do we usually use this? I think we can just let's try it out. Okay. Where do we import that from? Astro content. And then the content. Go here. Let's try that. All right. Almost works. Oh, no, it does. It works. Almost works. The list. The headers aren't quite correct. Actually, they are. Markup is correct. All right, well, let's fix that later. It's almost like there's a CSS reset. I wonder if this is something that essentially Tailwind is doing. And this is getting somehow inlined into the blog post. So it's like HTML, Tailwind, CSS 4.07. And then what is this? Wow. This is all Tailwind stuff. And I'm not sure if it's actually tree shaking because I don't think I'm using a lot of these. Well, dang, Tailwind. Maybe somebody else has complained or asked about this. Or resetting. The problem is I don't have, this is converting the markdown to HTML, so I can't kind of inject styles utilities into my converted markdown. I can kind of start to see why they didn't touch the blog collection because it's a bit of a can of worms. But honestly, this should have been part of the thing tutorial. Style rendered markdown with Tailwind typography. Tailwind's Vite plugin. Vitae. You can use Tailwind's typography plugin to render Markdown from sources such as Astro's content collections. This recipe will teach you how to create a reusable Astro component to style your Markdown content. So install that, add that plugin, recipe, create a prose component, wrapping a div and a slot for your rendered Markdown. What is Tailwind typography? The official Tailwind CSS typography plugin provides a set of prose classes you can use to add beautiful typographic defaults to any vanilla HTML you don't control, like HTML rendered in Markdown and pulled from that. I wish it just wouldn't have taken them out to begin with. It's reminding me of Bulma. So we just have to wrap it in our prose thing. I'm surprised this doesn't come out of the box. Okay, let's do it. Well, I guess they're not assuming everyone's using Tailwind. Alright, so we will then just follow this tutorial. Still don't know what the problem with the dates is. Gotta figure that out. Right after that, plugin. Unknown arrow plugin. Because we're using, no. Did I copy the plus? No. So go politics. We need a CSS preprocessor here. Prose Astro. There we've got that, and then in our little thing, wrap the content in the prose. Save that, import that. Over there, over there, and close this, refresh. That shouldn't need to be refreshed. I'll run the server. Dev. Getting there. I think they're defaulting it to dark. All right. Read what I'm pasting. This is going to be a challenge with the dark mode. Okay, so we got some content. It's looking decent. Yeah, I think Bulma had this same problem when they have these really hardcore resets. I mean, I know that there's differences between the browsers, but I like a more opinionated approach like Bootstrap, and it didn't throw out all the styles. It kind of reset them in a consistent way across browsers. So you don't have to jump through these kind of hoops, and you can still override that. All right, different philosophy. Okay, we've got that. And the only thing that's not working is the date. Let's find the problem there. But I think we've made enough progress to commit these changes at least, and then I can, if need be, punt the date issue to another day. I've got more energy. So that is working. My post. Has it always been date published? I don't know. That's correct. All right. Maybe it is just working now. Oof, yeah, it is working. Good. All right, so then let's just format this date. I don't know exactly what to request. But essentially, our blog dates are very verbose. I don't know if we want to use the browser locale. Let me take that back, because I want this to be rendered server side. So there, see what happens. Static. So it's going to edit the slug and list item pages. Format date. All right. And then I'm wondering if there's a way of moving this closer to the data model, so we don't have to define this formatted date twice. Let's do that. Follow up request. See, it's going to be doing it everywhere. it should only be a date. Okay, because it's optional. That makes sense. If I move it back to being required, I need a publish date. So that should help. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I can see that. However, we're doing this over and over again, right? So we're getting the formatted date over and over. Is there a way to add a helper or method to the post data model that will return the correctly formatted date? We want to define that code once, right? That way dates are consistent across the site. If I need to change the date format, I change it everywhere at once. Add a helper method to format the dates in the blog schema. Okay. So in the content config, interesting, it added a transformer. Quite interesting, I didn't know you could do that. Now we have a new property, it spreads the post, so we get all those properties and adds a new function. Or it's not a function, it's a computed property. So it's like after it initializes the model, then it runs this transform function on it to add kind of computed fields. That's pretty cool. And now we just get that formatted date where we want to use it. And we can clean up the logic a little bit. Very cool. Everywhere else. Here, except, yeah, that's just now getting passed in. Date published again. Passed in correctly. Passed in to the property correctly. Props. Okay, now we'll go. Let's see. We're doing good. If I go to the blog, we have my first blog post published on 2025. I can click on the title and it's got the thing and it looks a little bit nicer. All right. I'll work on styling a bit later, but currently this blog page is kind of confusing. So let's at least add some kind of a style or card to the blog page that makes it more, you know, oops, shoot. All right, I can commit that. Okay, so this is done a blog post list item. And I can start posting some blog items. I have already some ideas. used, for example, the icon component elsewhere. Let's see, social, I think. Alright, so we import the icon and we polish it up a little bit, add some classes and some styling to those classes, and icon, material, symbols, articles. So I believe that is not installed, but we have this IC. So we just need to kind of actually find a icon. IC baseline article, outline article. Now we're good to go. So we can go back and close that. Yeah, basically close that. I don't know, so we want to swap it out for something else. It's looking better. Let's just make and the whole thing is clickable, so that's a good improvement. Let's see. Size. Five. Ooh. Really small. 50. You know what I'm going to do. Not bad. It's blue. Hey, we're looking good. Alright. Better wrap it up. We've made good progress today. Close number 27. So now I have a pull request open. It's linked. This will be closed, and then we can start working on the last modified time once we have some blog content. All right, let's go ahead and summarize this. Welcome to a recap of today's live code hangout. We worked with Astro content collections here to switch blog content to a collection after following the Astro tutorial where we were defining blogs as static markdown files. Here we can see the website. When I go to the blog page, we now have a listing here with some improved aesthetics. We'll look at those in a moment. And I can click on the blog post and it renders the content correctly with markdown rendered to HTML and correctly formatted. There were some tricks we had to go through to get this to all work correctly, and we'll go through those really quickly. So in the code, the main changes, I needed to add a couple of, or one dependency here, Tailwind CSS typography. And I'll explain why in a moment, but it's relating to rendering markdown content. I think Tailwind has an aggressive CSS reset and automatically rendered content, such as markdown, using just plain paragraphs and headings and lists, is unstyled pretty much by default, which was surprising, but it's not the first aggressive CSS reset I've encountered. I think Bulma also had really strong CSS reset. So in order to get it to work, we needed to create a custom component we'll see in a moment. But essentially, we've got a projects collection we worked on previously and a blog collection we defined today. And we're using this global, or like this glob loader, to use kind of a regular expression sort of search syntax to get all the markdown files from within our data folder, and all the blog posts can be contained therein. And we defined a schema, which is a fairly standard blog schema. Title and a slug, date published, and it's going to coerce this string to a date, and we have an optional date modified, which we might work with later. Description, an author, and optional image, tags, a headline. Those are kind of common and aligned with schema.org. This is an interesting one. So once you've defined your main schema, then you can transform it. You can spread the original schema and then add additional fields like a computed field. So what we wanted to do is take these raw dates and format them using a particular formatting style that's consistent across the whole site. And now we can access that called on a property called formatted date. So transforming like Zod models after they are instantiated. So you get this Zod object schema and transforming them. Pretty cool. Learned something new today, and lots of things new today. Then we can export our blog collection. I just renamed these for consistency because then we can use this object destructuring, whereas previously we were saying projects is projects collection, and this is just a bit more succinct and conventional. So I wanted to align with those conventions. Here we imported Tailwind typography, which is important later when we want to render this blog content. But I'll kind of go from top to bottom. Actually, let's go bottom to top. So we have a blog page that now gets our blog collection and grabs all the posts basically, and we map over those, and they're just in the order, I guess, of the file name. So I'll need to sort those and maybe filter them in some cases too. We'll have to determine how to display them as the blog collection grows. We have a blog list item component. Let's take a quick look at that. And it's essentially going to create a list item with some styles and an icon. And if you recall, it kind of renders like this. It's like kind of a card with the title and the publication date, and there's our formatted date and the icon here. And notice the whole card is clickable. So as we're rendering these, at least there's some kind of buffer here, padding where there's no interactivity. But nonetheless, we'll render those out, and they have a nice aesthetic using some component level CSS. Now on our actually rendering the blog post is a bit tricky, it turned out, but we've been working with just regular markdown, static markdown posts that rendered themselves, and everything worked pretty much correctly there. But here we had to define a new component called prose, and this is what lets us correctly render the headings and list items and stuff. I'll look at the prose in just a moment. But we're going to render this in our base layout, and we're getting the collection and a specific entry from that collection, and we're rendering that in context here. So we get static paths. So this is, since we have this dynamic attribute here, we have to define this get static paths function since we're using a content collection. I believe that's a necessity. And we'll grab all the posts, and we're going to find the one post, sort of a filter, but using map here. Yes, sorry, we're trying to get the one for the particular slug. Here we are. I'm sorry, I misspoke. We're getting the kind of slug from the path. I'm not clear really exactly how this is working. A lot of this I'm learning. We get this slug from the params, and then we get this specific entry for that slug. And if we can't find it, we're going to raise an error, and that's going to help us at build time so we know that something went wrong. And then we're going to render that and get this content component out of that. We do have some static formatting here that we can just apply, because a lot of the actual blog is defined here in the top level, I forget the word for that, and then the body gets rendered separately, and this is where we had some styling issues. So this front matter is available as properties, and we can access those properties. Oops. Here, post data, formatted date. So we just define all of those. And then we want to come to the body where it's not so structured, it's just markdown. So everything here rendered correctly, but when I tried to render the content, you'll notice it's sort of like semi-styled. And this is because Bulma, but also Tailwind has very aggressive CSS reset, and there's probably good reasons for it. We needed to define a prose component that essentially lets the styles render correctly. So let's take a quick look at this. And all it is using is the Tailwind prose semantics, and then telling it the details we want and providing a slot. So it's kind of describing the style, how we want it to render various headers and links and things like that, which is pretty cool. So you, in a way, you get to use your utility classes on pre-rendered content, headings, lists. And I guess it has some default resets because now our lists worked without me having to kind of specify anything. And I might be able to change the text justification, image formatting, and things like that. So that was interesting, but a bit frustrating when I couldn't figure out how to get this styling to work for a while. It was a bit of a roadblock. So those are the main changes. We just have a few posts that we'll add. We have one post, but if I move this example post to the blog, it should render there. So if I go to posts, where was that? Example post, and I move it to the date of the blog folder. And then when we go back to the blog, we have this example blog post. So you can see the blog posts will grow, and it's essentially sorting them reverse alphabetically. I'm not sure, or chronologically. I don't quite know. I'll have to come back to that, revisit that as I add blog posts and figure it out how I want it to sort. But nonetheless, this was a bit of a battle, and kind of took a little bit of the joy out of Astro, but at the same time I can understand some of the justifications, particularly the Tailwind justification for resetting the HTML default styles. You know, that was a surprise, but also understand why the Astro developers have maybe left out this content collection creation from the default or their tutorial, which it was a bit of a struggle. And if they would have included that in the tutorial, it would have saved me the struggle, but it was also complicated enough I can understand why they might not have left that in the getting started guide tutorial building a blog. Although really, I think building a blog should start with a content collection. Okay, well, that's been a recap of today's live code hangout. I hope you're doing well and have a great day.